There we go.
Got there eventually.
Got there. How are you?
I'm very good.
You had an exciting day.
I've had an exciting day, have I?
Yeah, I was watching your story. You're watching people jumping off bridges.
Yeah, it's surprising what you see in these parts. I was just walking along, been on a good walk with the kids, and the next minute, in all seriousness, I thought somebody's doing a suicide attempt. I just saw somebody climb up onto the bridge, and I thought he's going to jump this fella, and I ran up, and then I realised it was just some, cliff diver, and off he went before I could even get to him. We were off. So I
Yeah,
had to go down to the riverbank and had a chat to him. But yeah, from Liverpool, I think he was. And
you weren't tempted to try it yourself, no?
no, you know what? I don't like heights. I've done parachute jumps and I've done stuff off 5 meter boards, but it's that if you don't get up there quick enough and straight and you have time to think about it, it's the worst time. And I said to him afterwards, I said, "What's the depth?" And he said, "It's only 13 foot, which is not a lot." And he goes, "But we never touched the bottom." And I think it's something to do with the higher you are, the more force you hit the water,
Oh,
the more it slows you down. He said, "You actually go deeper from shallower heights." So I had a good chat to them, and it's always interesting, seeing what switches people on. And we think getting punched in the face is dangerous for a living, but they're doing that for free. And I think he's only got about 500 followers on Instagram, but I tagged him in. Hope he'll get a few more. But yeah, maybe if I need to get some lessons on how to do it.
yeah.
I said to him, no matter what, um, I noticed you got yourself psyched up for like a good 5 minutes before you did it. And you've done it loads of times. He goes, yeah, but you still always have that initial fear factor.
Mm,
And it's almost like when you box that, you get all the nerves building up. But as soon as the first punch is thrown, it all goes out the window. So
mm.
yeah, it's just funny how different people approach, fear.
Well, it's very interesting, and the fear element is definitely something very interesting, especially when we look at boxers and or fighters in general, because I think a large populate or a large amount of the population think that fighters are kind of immune to fear, and that the reason they do what they do is because they don't experience fear at all in their lives, which is very untrue.
Well, the fighters that I've had going into fights before a fight who said I'm not nervous are the ones who usually get beat or knocked out. It's the
Mm,
fear that drives them and keeps you on your toes and switches your adrenaline on. And you've got to have the fear factor. And in your fight, the best fights I've ever been in, Kell Brook against Sean Porter or Golovkin or Kid Galahad in fights, it's the fear what drives them. I was speaking to Willie Hutchinson today. I think did you interview him the other day?
I did,
We've
yeah.
been on a big bike ride this morning, and I've been phoning him all morning because I've been asleep for 4 hours. But we were talking about it today that because we never get in a ring thinking you're going to get knocked out or you're going to get hurt. It's not in your mind. So luckily it's never happened to him. But there are fighters that it does happen to. Some come back. Look at Manny Pacquiao against Marquez,
Hmm.
flat on his face, and he still went on to great things after that. But some people, some fighters, it ruins them. The shell shocked and they never get over that. So it's just funny how different people deal with it.
So, as a coach, then, how do you sort of navigate the perfect balance of having enough fear and not having enough? So
Um,
because I imagine it's very much down to the person. So, as the coach who's with them in these moments, how do you breed that? I suppose.
well, I think you get to know the fighters. There's only been a few fighters, and I always mention this. Johnny Nelson was one who was not really a natural fighter, and was a scared fighter when he was an amateur because he didn't really know what he was doing. And even when he did know what he was doing, he wasn't the same type of mentality as Naseem Hamed or Kell Brook. They welcome fear in a way, whereas Johnny kept it at a distance, and he was always nervous, but he found confidence in the training that he did. And sometimes you probably push yourself too hard in training and overcompensate for that, thinking, I'm not going to run out of gas here or get tired or get beat. But he just found a different way. He wasn't the typical type of fighter mentality, Johnny. He wasn't. He wouldn't take risks. He wasn't a risky kind of guy. I mean, years ago we used to do door work only on hotels and stuff, and he was always very non-confrontational. You would never know he was a boxer. He'd avoid trouble at all costs. Where some fighters who do that kind of stuff, they're in for a fight straight away.
Hmm.
But to deal with that, you know, a lot of fighters keep it to themselves. It's a process they go through in their own mind. But I think they draw confidence off the training that they do or the sparring that they do. So when they get in the ring, I think the doubts creep in when they know they haven't done the work right. So that's where it's at. And you can watch fighters all day long and watch them train, and you can see what they're doing in the gym. It's when they leave the gym. My dad always used to say you can't live with them, and what they do for the other 20 hours of the day when they leave you never know what they get up to. So the good fighters I have, they have their own process. One of the ways, I can always remember doing an interview with Bernard Hopkins when Kell Brook was fighting Golovkin, and he just said to Kell, how many videos have you watched of this guy? And Kell said, I've just watched very little. And he goes, my coach watches the stuff, and we put a plan together, we do the training, and said, this is what's going to happen. And, we worked from there, and Bernard Hopkins said, I don't believe you. He said, I watched every single one of my opponents. But sometimes, watching a wrecking machine like Golovkin over and over again, and most of the times you don't watch a full fight, you tend to watch the highlighted reel. So all you're doing is getting the best bits. So if you really wanted to put negative thoughts into a fighter's mind, show them a show reel of a fighter's best bits. If you want to, falsely build the confidence, show them an highlight reel of, that fighter taking shots, because you can edit a video any way you want. So the proper way to do it is actually to watch the full length of a fight. But that's why I try to advise my fighters not to watch highlighted reels of people, because it just looks all the best bits. If you actually look what's going on in the fight from the start to the end, that's where you get the best measure of it all. So people like Johnny Nelson, Kid Galahad to a certain degree, Kell Brook, they don't tend to watch a lot of their opponents. They'll have an idea way away from a fight. They'll be watching the stuff. But when they come to fight week, when they come to fight camp for 12 weeks, they don't watch a lot, because you don't want to be getting that adrenaline rush watching your opponent. You want to do your training, stick to your plan. Don't be watching stuff and think, oh, he's done this, I'm going to have to compensate with this. You have to have your plan set quite early on in the camp, exactly how you're going to approach it, and try not to change too much. Have your ideas first, what you're going to work on, and try and put that game plan on your opponent. Try not to work too much to what they're going to bring to you. You've got to try and negate what they're doing and give them what you want to give them, not be waiting to see what they're throwing to work off of that. Do your own thing. And that's how we tend to do it. It tends to work well. Everybody's got their own different approach. Some people analyse the hell out of fights and every single shot. But most fighters have got a certain punch variation anyway, or certain combinations that they use over and over again. So you get them worked out and you're halfway there.
So obviously, Ingle Gym has such a massive heritage. So many incredible fighters have come through the doors. And it's the age-old question. And I always love to ask it, especially to coaches, because I get a lot of questions from the younger generation who kind of mirror the same question. And that is, what separates a world champion or an elite level boxer from just your really good guys that you see on the regional scene, on the Irish scene, on the British scene?
It's just mental approach, really, that, over the years, you get kids who are natural fighters. You look at the fighters, over the past, like Chico Corrales, all these guys, Arturo Gatti, Mike Tyson, they're all wild characters outside of the ring. And when they get into the ring, they're channeled, in what they're doing, because it's aggression. But, you've got to put the work in as well. You've got to be disciplined. Same with Naz. And when fame and fortune comes knocking on the door, it's such a distraction that, going to the gym, it is boring. I remember going to Mayweather's gym, I think, when Kell boxed in 2016 against Sean Porter. We went to the gym and we were waiting to watch him spar. And he's going to be here at 4 o'clock. He's going to be here at 4:30, 5:30. And he kept running. And just sat there, I thought, this is just what it was like with Naz. Naz is supposed to be in at a certain time. I'll be there in half an hour. 5 hours had gone, then he'd roll up when we were closing the gym. And you could see when Mayweather came to do his training, he came in, he could see he didn't really want to be training. He's like, I got 1,000 other things to be doing. He came in, 5-minute warm up, got in, did his sparring, and as soon as he finished, got out of the ring and just went. And that was it, in and out. Didn't want to be hanging around too long, and got his work done. And that's the thing. The more fame you get, and the more popular and the better you get, you do tend to find that they do less training, and that's what separates the the fighters like the Joe Calzaghes, Floyd Mayweather, is that it's not boxing. They don't just train for fights. It's a lifestyle while they're doing it. You know, Ricky Hatton, I speak to Ricky a lot, and I always say that, you know, there were fighters who weren't as good as him who went the distance with Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. And, you know, he said to me afterwards, maybe if I'd just lived my life a little bit differently. But at the time, you're on a roller coaster, you're with your friends, all these things. And then you look back and think I could have done things differently. And it's like you look at Mike Tyson making a comeback and he's hitting the pads and everybody's raving about him. Boxing's a young man's game. It's not for all men. Tyson's the same age as me. And it's all right hitting pads and looking the part, but nobody's hitting your back. And as you get older, your balance goes, your coordination goes, your punch resistance goes. Yeah, it might be all right if you can hit somebody, you know, but if you're getting somebody a bit fresher than you or a bit younger, I mean, I don't know what the ins and outs of that is, whether he's doing an exhibition or he's fighting somebody or what he's doing, but, you know, you should do it the first. I always say to my fighters, do it the first time round. Don't be, you know, sitting back 20 years later in hindsight and go, oh, I could have done this and I could have done that. Well, you didn't. You know, your time's gone. So, you know, I always give example to the younger fighters, to Kell Brook. I can remember when he came, you know, he came in the gym. He left for a few years, came back at 21 and or 22. He was a British champion. He defended against Kevin McIntyre, and I did for 16 to 18 weeks training. And he demolished the kid in 2 minutes. And I said to him, "This, you know, your boxing life's going to go so fast." And at the time, Junior Witter was just on the way out. I says, Junior's on his way out. I said, "You're coming in. At some point, you're going to be where he is." I goes, "But you never think it's going to happen, but it's going to happen." And his last fight, when he came back to the him, he was training, he went, "I remember that conversation." And that's where I'm the oldest one in the gym, aren't I? I went, "Yeah, you're the oldest one in the gym." And he's probably the last one, well, apart from Kid Galahad, who Brendan trained as well and had all the knowledge and information. I says, "And look where you are now." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You never think this day's going to come." I goes, "Yeah, it always comes." I goes, "But you'll only ever see it once." But I've seen it with Johnny Nelson, Junior Witter, you know, the fighters who've been through the gym, Herbie Hyde, lots of fighters. So for me, you know, the one thing about the fighters, they only ever think it's happening to them. They don't really, the good ones don't pay attention to anybody else. They pay attention to what's happening on their planet and in their world. You know, they'll have a little bit of a look what's going on. But, you know, Kel, Naz, they don't tend to look at everybody else. They look at themselves. So, you know, that's the interesting thing.
I love that you mentioned that actually about, you know, get it right the first time, because it's a very it's not just boxing, that's a life lesson. Do you know what I mean? I find that you know, especially in terms of, you know, it's the ignorance of youth, I suppose, in a way, where you feel like you're going to live forever or you're going to last forever, and that, you know, you don't think about you're very much in the moment, and there's a certain degree of ego and different things that go into it.
Yeah.
And obviously, like you said, you've been there, you've seen them come, you've seen them go, you've seen them lift titles, you've seen them retire. So, you know, what is the balance for you as a coach? You know, you can obviously, you know, the classic saying, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
I mean, to finish off, I don't quite answer the question, but then the difference between the world class fighter is that they can go into camp and repeat it over and over again and be motivated and cut themselves off and keep focus. You know, Naseem Hamed's peak was probably Steve Robinson. And my dad had never let anybody in the gym to watch him train. There was people in the gym. We didn't have mobile phones then. Nobody could keep an eye on you. There was no videos going out. So, but if people actually knew, I mean, Naz did train hard, but he did cut corners as well. And, you know, the only chance you got to, if you're going to fight him, you fight him in the ring. That's what you see. He didn't have the inside information. He didn't intimidate Brer. Brer had seen it all before and played him in his own game. But, you know, the mystique behind Naseem Hamed and all this stuff that was going on, he got the opponents off beat before they got in the ring. You know, you can't do that now because people are sending videos of themselves, they're giving the game away. So you have to be careful what you do. But I would say that what separates, there's been very, very good fighters over the years who should have been world champions or been world champions for maybe one fight, one or two defenses, like Robin Reed, good fighter, very exciting to watch, great fighter. But, you know, the lifestyle outside of the ring caught up with him. He liked to be the playboy, you know, all over the place. And there's so many fighters who should have made it and are being champion for longer that didn't, because they just couldn't keep on the track. They couldn't put the lifestyle, the partying behind them and switch on. And the good fighters, like Galahad, you know, after he got beat by Josh Warrington the first fight, Sunday morning, he was on a treadmill in the hotel doing a run, and he carried on training, and he never stopped training until he boxed his eliminator against Marrero in February. And And that's the difference. And you get those fighters. You don't get many like that. You know, Johnny Nelson would do it. Kid Galahad can do it. You know, Kell Brook's not like that. He'll train hard for camps and have long camps. But that's the difference where when you get it wrong, Johnny Nelson had to go back to the drawing board so many times. You know, so he'd make a mistake, correct that mistake, but then make another one, then he'd correct them both mistakes, and he'd just be correcting and correcting eventually. And his third world title attempt, when he boxed Cole Thompson, was probably the hardest opponent he faced for a world title, and he shouldn't have won. He beat him. So by that time, mentally matured, physically matured, and thought, you know what, maybe when he was younger, when he was 22 or 26 when he was boxing world title fights, he probably thought, I'm not ready for this, I shouldn't be in this position. But by the time he got to 30, he was more mentally mature. And I thought, I ain't got any more time. If I get it wrong this time, there's no more chances for me. Yeah, at 22 there is, and at 26 there is. But at 30, that's me done. And once he became champion at 30, he managed to keep hold of it for 6 years. And he was unbeaten for the last 10 years of his career. So that's the championship mentality, thinking, right, this is the problem I've got to solve. This is the opponent, right? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to beat this guy. I'm not going to do anything else. And focus on this. And when Johnny trained in the training camp for 10, 12 weeks, he'd always train every day. All our fights train every day, maybe once a day in between fights. But a training camp then is twice a day, concentrated for like 12 weeks. And this idea of having a training camp for 12 weeks, then blowing up for 10 weeks, and then back in again, it's not what we do. It's not the way to do it. You're a professional, you should be doing it all the time. So Johnny Nelson worked and worked and worked and worked. And for a kid who should never, ever, ever been a world champion, he did. Should never have been a world champion because he wasn't good enough from the beginning. He wasn't good enough, but he worked on it. He listened. You know, he was shown all the pitfalls, and he learned by his mistakes, and it all came good at the right time. So many people just don't do that, and I've seen so much talent go through gyms, and not even just my gym, other ones, who've never materialised, and should have done a lot better. And they didn't, because they started living the life and the championship lifestyle. You live that when you're finished. You know, that's when you're doing, not in between. And it's hard because you're young. You know, I can remember Naz knocking around with Oasis, Spice Girls, you know, all the hip hop era. It's like TV. You know, he just got carried away with it all. And, you know, boxing was hard work and hard graft, and he was very good at it. And sometimes he could get in and cut corners and still beat people. And I can watch fights now and know when the fights he didn't train properly for, when he just had bits of dips. You know, and I thought, yeah, that's what happened in that training camp. And when he boxed Kevin Kelly, I remember why that happened. You know, so there's all these, they stick in your mind, the little things where it went wrong, but Naz managed to override it with his power. So the things where he made mistakes in the gym, whether it was his fitness or his weight, or he'd not done the weight right, the great leveler for him, he had so much power that the fight against Kevin Kelly, you know, you could see Naz thinking, I've been down, I think Naz was down twice. And you can see Naz thinking, all I've got to do is hit him once, clean. If I can knock him down, I've got him. Because once Naz knocked you down, he was going to beat you. But he never managed to trouble Barrera, did he? So, but if he clipped somebody, once he had him wobbled, he knew he could finish him, and that's what motivated him on. And he got Kelly in the end. So that was a level, and he overrode a lot of his mistakes.
So when you say about, you know, that time when you look back and, you know, about it being very closed off, very private, not having social media like we have now, was that something that was kind of instilled with your dad, Brendan? Did he want it to be that sort of private place where no one knew too much about what was going on in the spars and different things? Or was that just the culture at the time?
Yeah. It's, you've got to, because, you know, people like to showcase in this day and age. You know, we're all on Instagram now, showing what we can do. And back in the day, nobody did. And any kind of stuff what came out on videos, you know, it was precious. But now it's common and everybody does it. And you give so much away if you're not careful. You give so much away on social media, and you've got to have surprises, because if you know, my dad used to say, forewarned is foretold. Basically, like if you tell somebody you've got a good left hook or you've done this or whatever, they're going to be preparing for that. Don't let them see anything. So, you know, it was pretty closed off in the gym. And if anybody, you know, especially in NASCAR, we didn't like it, when anybody's seen sparring. He didn't do open sparring anyway. But a lot of his sessions were at the back end when everybody was finished. And people like to stand around and watch. But, you know, sometimes you hear people say, oh, Naz hasn't been training today. And rumours would be going round, so you had to stop that, because really you could never let anybody know what Naz was doing. You know, whether he was missing training or he was ill or 5 days off. Because if people could see a chink in his armour, then, you know, they would capitalise. And it was a big thing back in the day. He was a big world champion. There was a lot of money riding on him, a lot of promotional stuff with Frank Warren, Sky. It was massive in the day. It was a multi-million-pound industry then. So you had to keep him on the track. And it was hard work because you weren't just getting paid to train him. You weren't getting paid just for him to come in and do a session. You had to manage his life outside of the ring as well. You had to chase him, go to his house, bring him to the gym. You know, he might have a car crash, he might do this, he might be out late one night, he might be in a club, he'd have to drive. There's lots of stuff that you had to do what people don't know to keep them where they need to be, because you're spending this time training them. And then they're going out, walking outside the gym and unraveling themselves all the work they've done in the gym. And that happens with so many fighters. So you're not just a trainer. You've got to manage their life, really.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's so common that fighters need to be, you know, for want of a better word, babysat?
Because, you know, when people are heaping adulation on you, you know, it's like with football. You know, boxing and football are working class sports, and all the good fighters we've ever had have not been educated in the sense where they've gone to school, done GCSEs or you know A levels or whatever. And I had a conversation with a guy years ago who was very clever. In fact, we had one or two guys in our gym who got A levels and they were very clever. And he said to me, you know, I should be doing a lot better in boxing. I went, why? Because I'm smart, and you know, most of the kids in this gym aren't particularly smart. You know, they didn't go to school. I went, the thing is, because they can't do anything else. Because this is all they can do. I said, they can only fight, so they can probably fight or, you know, rob banks. Says you've got an option to educate yourself, so you'd be seeing that you're not really smart choosing boxing, because this is where they're at. You know, Kid Galahad, Kell Brook, they're good for nothing apart from boxing and fighting, or probably crime maybe, because they didn't go to school. And Naz, you know, we have the stories that, you know, we went to the same school. Naz is maybe 7 or 8 years younger than me, I think, maybe 8. And Kell Brook and my dad was always at their schools with the teachers sorting the trouble out, and the threat they used to say to them is, if you don't behave yourself, you won't be able to go and box or train. And it was, you know, just to behave yourself. But Kelly used to say, my teacher used to say to me, you're going to have no qualification when you leave school. Kelly went, yeah, I don't need it, I'm going to be world champion. He goes, and my teacher used to laugh. And when he won the world title, because he still used to go back to the school, and the teacher had him up because they said to him, you're not going to be good for nothing. He goes, well, I'm going to be world champion, and here he is. And the same with Naz, but that very rarely happens. But yeah, they had so much confidence, and they put everything, you know, them two people, even Kid Galahad, when you look at the fighters who become the world champions, their goal, they're so driven for that one thing. That's what it is. Nothing else, they sacrifice everything, you know, to be in that position. When they get there, if it's what they expected, who knows? You know, I think sometimes they're disappointed because things can be a lot different. But, you know, to get where you need to be and set yourself out a goal and sacrifice and, you know, discard people along the way, you know, whether it's girlfriends, friends, work. There's so many sacrifices. People don't understand what you have to do, you know, to get there. It's not, you know, very few people become a world champion easy. It's not. There's a lot of sacrifices. It's not just training hard. It's like putting your life on hold and having one, you know, thing down the road where you're gonna be a world champion. And you know, luckily, Kell Brook achieved that. Naseem Hamed did, and they've made plenty of money, and it's good because for what they've done, you know, the time and effort they put in, they deserve what they got. So yeah, it's and the time you put in as a trainer. You know, you've got 6 and 7 weeks into a camp. You can't afford, because you get paid for a fight. If that fighter doesn't fight, you've wasted 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah.
So you've got to do everything. It's not your job, but you know, if a kid's supposed to be rolling up for a training session and he's not turned up that day, and you've got sparring, and you know, you've got to find out where they are. Have they been, you know, getting drunk? Have they been out somewhere racing cars? What you know, why aren't they in? They're supposed to be in. So you know, it can be a bit of a nightmare, but. I think with successful coaches, you know, you'll hear me banging on about it. You see so many people picking their pads up and doing all this fancy pad stuff. You know, anybody can do pads. There's better pad men than me. I was in a park the other day, and these two kids, kickboxers, picked the pads up and they're taking each other on pads. They weren't bad. But being a trainer is not about, you know, holding pads. It's about managing the fighter. You know, getting them ready for a fight, knowing them inside out. you know, getting them to the peak, not overtraining them, building the confidence, getting them the right sparring, so that when they're getting against the opponent, managing the fighter, you know, getting them ready for a fight, knowing them inside out, you know, getting them to the peak, not overtraining them, building the confidence, getting them the right sparring, so that when they're getting against the opponent, that nothing's unfamiliar. And when Kell boxed Golovkin, we had Liam Williams come to the gym, and Liam Williams at the time, he was only 21, hard as nails, Welsh. I'd seen him years before, and I just thought he's ideal because he'll just come, he'll not be scared of what Kell's got, and he'll just come up, and he did. He come up, put it on Kell, and you know, tried to make a punch up out of it, and he went hard sport for Kell. And you could see Liam Williams back then, no fear whatsoever, no, it's not always Kell broke. You know, it's like, well, I'm Liam Williams, and you know, you can have this if you want. And if it had gone much longer, they killed each other, but it was just the right amount of sparring, and that was probably Kell's hardest proper sparring in that camp. He had decent sparring, which was technique stuff, but the nearest you're going to get to Golovkin was Liam Williams. And look how Liam Williams has come on now. Liam Williams can punch, and Kell went, you can punch him, can't you? Like, yeah. So you get them to the point where they're going to be familiar with what's coming from in the ring, so they can negotiate that. And it's matching all that up, not pad working, we're hitting with this shot. There's no magic shot you're going to knock somebody out with. So it's about giving the fighter the plan and making sure they keep on track. You know, in the fight, Liam Williams, classic example, because I used to watch Liam Williams for years, just walking into people and ripping them to bits, just trying to throw everything, not really a constructive fight plan, just hit them with anything you can. And he seemed to be doing so much work to get the end result, when I used to look and think, you don't need to do all that. And when I got him, it was a case of taking him back. And I think it's not because Gary Lockett or the previous trainers weren't good. It's because it was getting into his head not to do that, and to force him not to do it, and not to let him get away with it, and to stick to the plan. And then when he started realising, when he came to my gym, you know, Gary used to train him, but I think Liam used to go and do extra training. Well, I used to pull him back and make him do less. I said, you're doing too much. I used to do 12 rounds. I said, yeah, because you're doing too much. And he started doing less work in the gym, but more concentrated, and became a better fighter himself, because the problem was him. But maybe at 21, 22, now he's 27, I think, or 28, he's more mature, he realises. But when you're 21, you won't listen to anybody.
Yeah.
So you can't get, whoever's going to, if I was training him at that time, it would have been probably difficult, because he's a very forceful personality, and so am I, and we'd have been at loggerheads. So, you know, it's only as he's got older, he's matured a bit, and thought, you know what, I'll just listen. And he's never looked over in the last 4 or 5 fights. You know, his boxing's fantastic, and it's great to see, because you can see people like him, and there's lots of fighters in Britain the same. It's like just chopping trees down with no thought process, and they seem to be doing it the wrong way around. And if somebody can just give them the idea and the plan, how to do it, they would probably be a bit more successful. But doing long runs and long pad sessions and long sport and grinding the way to do it. You know what I mean? It's not. So, you know, there's a lot of trainers out there. Look at the trainers, you know, the old school trainers who've been around, who are quite silent. Look at Rob McCracken box, good trainer. You know, Joe Gallagher is a good trainer. A lot of people, you know, rant on about him. There's a lot of trainers under the radar that nobody knows about, who are very, very good trainers, but they don't put themselves in the limelight. You tend to find it's all these inexperienced trainers who are trying to get a name for themselves. And, you know, the good trainers, because they've got 100,000 followers on Instagram. Do you know what I mean? Which is the results of being a good trainer is the people that you produce and the fighters that you produce.
Well, you know,
your understanding of boxing.
I remember around the time when your dad passed, and there was a lot of, you know, at the shows, obviously it was a lot of people talking about it, and people, you know, sharing their stories, you know, people who knew him, people who just admired him from afar. And the kind of common theme, or the common thread that was sort of discussed, was that he's sort of like the last of the old school boxers that was more than a coach, more than a trainer, that really kind of encompassed community and you know, being good people, as opposed to you know, just being a good fighter. He was all encompassing. Would you agree with that? I mean, is that day of that old school coach trainer, has that left us?
Yeah, I mean, there are other ones. There are other ones, but they're probably not as well publicised as Brendan. There's a lot of good amateur trainers out there who are the same, who just want to do amateur stuff. So there are, but you know, it's like anything else. I don't think you've got children. You don't look old enough, but it's like my dad used to
I'm
say to me.
definitely old enough, but no kids.
My dad used to say to me, the thing about being young is you think you know it all, and you don't know it all. And he used to say, you know, I used to know I was doing things before I even knew I was going to do it. And I used to think, why does he know that? But now as I'm a parent, I know, you know, because I've seen, you know, the things I used to do. I can see my kids trying to pull the wool over my eyes. So, you know, you've got this inside. And that's the thing. Brendan was very good at observing. He had dyslexia. When he first came to England, he couldn't read all right. My mother taught him. My mother was quite clever. She got high national diplomas in chemistry and everything. She had a good job. And he wasn't, you know, he wasn't educated. And but he learned to read and he observed a lot and he put training systems together just based on what he knew. And you know, he stood the test of time. When I look back now, we still have the same training systems in place. They're obviously improved, and we have a basic core of stuff, but we still do now. You know, and even when you've got all this S&C going on, all this new type of training, well, you know, before we had all this S&C going on and all these new age conditioners, you know, you look at the fights when they were fighting 15 rounds, Marvin Hagler, Thomas Hearns, back in the day, supremely conditioned fighters with none of this what we've got today. So it's like, you know, trying to reinvent the wheel all over again. Basically, you know, you've got to have a certain amount of conditioning. You've got to have it in your mind what you can do. You've got to have the fighting instinct. And you can do all the... I've seen kids, you know, do loads of training, intensity training, weights, this and that. But when it's come down to the mindset and being in a one-on-one with somebody and their will to win, they've been overpowered because somebody's got a stronger personality, they've got a stronger will to win, they've got more of an animal instinct. You know what I mean? And it's like you can't train that. You've either got it or you haven't.
Was there ever a moment where you questioned or, you know, looked at going in? Obviously, you went into the family business, but was there ever a moment where you said, I don't know if I want to? Or was it just a given? You were just going to do it?
No, because when you know, I've got two brothers and two sisters. My older brother boxed. He's a few years older than me, and I used to look at him and think, why is he want to box? He's rubbish. But, you know, I was more, when I was at school, I was always in trouble. I was a small kid, ginger hair, very shy. And if anybody picked on me, I'd just, you know, I'd put it so long that I'd explode. But I was very competitive. I was a good athlete, running, football. I did everything at school. I was not really cut out for being a trainer because I didn't, even when I played football, I didn't really like playing football because you had to depend on another 10 people. I used to play football and box, and I liked boxing better because I had to depend on me. So I used to go in the gym and train. Even when I packed it in, I had a couple of seasons boxing. I still always train in the boxing gym. And I just look at kids and think, why are they doing it? They've got no dedication, got no discipline. But I didn't realise they just wanted to do it just for something to do. Whereas I did things because I wanted to win. And that's the difference. Some kids will go in and like, you know, if I go in this gym and train on, you know, these people, I'll be as good as them. And they just be happy to be part of the process. But some people can walk into our gym and not see the system or not see the magic of it. Whereas people like Kid Galahad, I can remember when he came in when he was 13 years old. And you could see him look, his eyes lit up. And my dad went, keep an eye on that kid. He says he's one of Naz's mates. I think Naz sent him down to spy, like this little kid. And my dad had him doing footwork for 6 hours. And I could see what my dad was doing. My dad was trying to piss him off. So he'd clear off. My dad saying to him, you can't train here. Because he come in with, no, Naz sent me down, Brendan. Well, you know, my dad had a big, massive fallout with Naz at the time. So, but I go, you know, no problem. We were wagging school. So he came in at 8 o'clock in the morning. And my dad had him there for 5 or 6 hours doing his footwork. Now, most kids just say, do your footwork. They'll do it for 5 minutes and say, what now? Well, my dad said, well, if you might do it some more, they do it for maybe 10, 15 minutes. He said, right, I'm just going down the road. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Come back and be clear off. Well, Kid Galahad was there every day for 5 or 6 hours. You can see my dad scratching his head thinking, we're not going to get rid of this kid. You know what I mean? And then my dad says, I think he's going to be all right, Dad. So, and we spent time on him, and he'd pick your brains, he'd wait, he'd learn, he'd ask you questions. That's the difference. At the time I was training Junior Whitsey, he was a world champion. And I used to have Kid Galahad come in, he was about 13, a few other amateur kids, about 6 or 7 in the morning. We do circuits, we do certain stuff. And then at 8 o'clock, Junior Whitsey come in, I'd train him, they'd go off to school, the kids, the amateur kids. And I can remember one day Galahad come and saying, "Oh, can you take me on the pads?" I went, "No." He says, "Why not?" Because I don't train amateur fighters on pads. I'll do your fitness stuff and let you spar and that. I says, "But 8 o'clock is a time when Junior Witter's getting, that's his session." So he's training away one day and he gets to 5 to 8 and everybody's finished. And he come up and went, "Take me on pads." I went, "No." I says, "I'm training Junior." He goes, "No, you're training Junior at 8. It's 5 to 8. You can give me 2 rounds on pads." Do you know what I mean? So of all the kids, they just wanted to finish the session, get dressed and go. Whereas he was watching the clock, paid attention, and he'd seen a 5 minute, 6 minute slot where he could get 2 3 minute rounds or 3 2s on pads. And that's what he did. So he'd watch. And anytime I wasn't bang on 8 o'clock, he'd say, "No, can you do this one? And he almost pestered me. And that's good because, you realise then you're not having to chase them, they're chasing you. And as far as me being into the business, I never really wanted to be a boxing trainer. I mean, I was into music. I'd seen the ups and downs of boxing, and Brendan, my dad and my brother John were quite successful. They were making plenty of money. Boxing was going great. Got Naseem Hamed, Johnny Nelson, we had a great stable. I used to see him watching on TV and think, "Oh yeah, my dad, brilliant that." But I was doing my own thing because we were always taught to do what we wanted to do. And I can just remember one day my brother saying to me, "Oh, you're gonna have to come and give us an hand." I was like, "I've got so many kids, and my dad won't turn them away, and there's all these good kids coming through." And at the time, boxing was like Friday, Saturday. If I was out gigging, it would be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I had to make that decision because at the time I think I was still living at home. I was about 27, 28. I think I was the last one living at home. And it was great living at home. We got a big house. All my brothers and sisters had left. My mother cooked me food. I could just do my own training, swan about, got the house to myself. So if I don't do this job, there might be a chance I'm going to have to move out. So I sort of trying to fit the boxing around the music, and it didn't quite work out. So I just got into the boxing, and I was really the third down the line. My dad and John were the head trainers. I was just taking up the slack, and I just learned it. I knew about diet, weights. I knew a lot about training, not particularly about pad work. I couldn't even do pad work, but I'd boxed, and out of my family, I was always having trouble having fights. I didn't mind getting into a scrap. And I didn't really have any nonsense with kids. So one day my brother saying to me, "Oh, you're going to have to come and give us an hand." I was like, "I've got so many kids, and my dad won't turn them away, and there's all these good kids coming through." And at the time, boxing was like Friday, Saturday. If I was out gigging, it would be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I had to make that decision because at the time I think I was still living at home. I was about 27, 28. I think I was the last one living at home. And it was great living at home. We got a big house. All my brothers and sisters had left. My mother cooked me food. I could just do my own training, swan about, got the house to myself. So if I don't do this job, there might be a chance I'm going to have to move out. So I sort of trying to fit the boxing around the music, and it didn't quite work out. So I just got into the boxing, and I was really the third down the line. My dad and John were the head trainers. I was just taking up the slack, and I just learned it. I knew about diet, weights. I knew a lot about training, not particularly about pad work. I couldn't even do pad work, but I'd boxed, and out of my family, I was always having trouble having fights. I didn't mind getting into a scrap, and I didn't really have any nonsense with kids. So my dad would sometimes be a bit easy on them, whereas me were either do it or get out. So we had a bit of a different angle then. And I think when I was about 30, my dad had a bit of fallout with Naz, and I had to train him for a fight against William McCulloch. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but Brendan was giving me the guide, saying, "Give him so many pads, practice these shots, do this." It was almost like painting by numbers. And Naz said to me, "Oh, you could be my trainer, because I'm not getting on with your dad." I went, "Naz," and this was after the fight, and I said, "Naz, listen," I said, "I've been at it a couple of years." I says, "My dad's been at it all his life." I says, "It's experience, this game." I says, when you were 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 boxing, you weren't bad, but you got no experience." I says, "Now you've had 20 years or whatever, you've had 10 years experience, and you think you know it all." I says, "But you'll never know it all." I says, "You'll probably never achieve what you should do because you think you know it all. And somebody's got to, no matter how great you are, you've got to listen to somebody. You've got to have somebody." And Naz left that gym at 23, which is, looking back now, is a young age. And he had a couple of fights, and then, he got beat. Made it come back, and then I think he packed up by 26, 27. And purely because the system what kept him in place in that gym, he couldn't come in and be the top dog because he got people like Clifton Mitchell heavyweight, Johnny Nelson cruiserweight, Ryan Rose middleweight. You know, they weren't going to bow down to Naz, and you had to fight your way through that gym, and it didn't matter whether he was small or they were big. You did a lot of body sparring, and people think, well, body sparring, but body sparring is painful, especially when the shots are clipping your shoulders and hitting you on the chin. It's a physical thing, and you had to fight to keep your position in that gym, and everybody kept Naz on track. But once he left that gym, you know, the people in that gym kept him on track because it was there. They were boxers as well. But when he left that environment, if you ever watched that documentary with Naz, you know, the Little Prince Big Fight or whatever it were, he got control. Naz didn't know how to control the training camp. He knew how to box. All he knew how to do was box. A very good boxer. Didn't know how to condition himself or train himself. He had to pick a trainer. And I can remember talking to Emmanuel Stewart. We met him a few years after. And talking to him with my dad, and he goes, yeah, because he was telling me how to train, because he was paying me money to train him, but telling me what he wanted to do, because what's the point? And that's it. And once he gets to that point, when the fighter starts telling you how they want to be trained and what they want, you might as well just walk away, because they're not trained as the boxers. And if they don't know, like, you know, they've been boxing from 11 years old, by the time they're professional, they're 18, that's 6 or 7, 8 years of boxing. You've got to know a great deal of it by then, the rest is down to experience. If you don't know by 18 or 19 what you're all about, then you want to pick up boxing, but doesn't mean you know how to train yourself. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean you know how to train yourself. You have to have something to give you the guide. And if that person's plan works for you, stick with it. And so it doesn't work anymore. And the fighter stops following the advice because they think they know it all, they've learned it. You've never done learning as a fighter, as a coach, as a promoter, as a manager. You never do. Nobody knows it all. So
absolutely,
you've got to keep an open mind to everything, and no matter how dogmatic your ideas are or whatever, you've still got to have an open mind. Now, you know, fighters will come to me, you know, Kid Galahad or Kid, so I want to practice this and I want to practice that. I'll see, we'll practice it and we'll see where it works. If it works, we'll try, and if it doesn't, we won't. But I won't have other fighters, inexperienced fighters come up and telling me what I want to do, because they don't know. They might be watching something on a video of Floyd Mayweather, and they think, well, if Floyd's doing it, then it'll be all right. But it's not. You've got to experience yourself. So people like Kell Brook, Johnny Nelson, experienced fighters, you know, it's like when Billy Joe Saunders came to my gym, I learned a lot off Billy Joe Saunders. You know what I mean? A certain, you know, a certain mindset and a certain way. So I pick certain things up, and he picks a lot off of me. But ultimately, if you are not fit enough or making weight properly, then it doesn't matter how good a boxer you are, because you might be able to do it for 1 round, you might be able to do it for 2 rounds. And you've seen so many fights, brilliant for 6 rounds, and then they fell to pieces. It's conditioning that fighter to be able to do what they can do from round 1 to round 12, and then throw into the mix. If it also is going tits up and they get clipped, what the plan is then to get through it. And you know, Kell Brook, Liam Williams, Kid Galahad, even Billy Joe Saunders to a certain degree, especially when he boxed them you, they are very, very good at executing game plans. Even if what you're telling them is not working straight up, or they might have thrown a shot and got clipped back, they won't go, I'm not going to try that again. They make it work. They make it work. And that's the difference, getting back to the elite level fighters, is that they will stick to a plan, and they're very good. The plan that that Kell Brook had to beat Sean Porter, Kell Brook stuck to that plan 100%. The stages it went through and what he had to do. When I look back, I thought he was switched on for that fight. Even when sometimes it started to go out a little bit of control, he got control of it and kept it within his reach, and it was perfect. And then there were times in fights when he didn't, lesser fights, you know. But you know, by the time he got to Sean Porter, he did, and Kell he can listen, and you can tell him to throw a shot from ringside, and he'll be listening, and he'll do it, and he knows what he's doing. And the times when he has got beat, like the Golovkin or the Errol Spence, was more down not to listening, you know, getting caught with shots he should have known were coming, and obviously damage. And you know, I think to this day that if Kell Brook hadn't got the damage against Golovkin, it would have been a different fight, because he was visibly tiring Golovkin. He had put a lot of work in. I don't think he expected Kell to be what he was. And I think with, you know, people might say I'm wrong, with Errol Spence, he got an 85% Kell Brook for in that fight. Whereas we might have got the best Errol Spence, but we didn't get the best Kell Brook because of injuries and one thing and another. The Kell Brook will beat Sean Porter would have easily beat Errol Spence, and people say, "Oh, rubbish." But you look at the fight that Sean Porter gave Errol Spence. You know what I mean? And that's and Sean Porter had been beat by Kell Brook at that point. He might have been beat by somebody else. So that shows you the level. Sean Porter became world champion again through his determination. You could tell with Sean Porter, I knew it was going to be a very hard fight when he boxed Kell Brook for Kell because how Sean Porter was. And he just shows you how his career's gone since losing. It wasn't the worst thing what happened to him. It probably made him a better fighter. Kell Brook hasn't been a world champion again, has he? Whereas Sean Porter has. He learned from that mistake, became world champion, made a mistake, got back on his feet, and then became world champion again. So that's my thinking. Where Kell Brook, little mistakes he made, if he just paid a bit more attention, and I think he would have beat Errol Spence. But that's how boxing is. It's about time and it's about getting the fighter at the right time. Danny Williams beating Mike Tyson, and he never beat Mike Tyson 10 years before that or in his peak. Would Lennox Lewis have beat Mike Tyson because they boxed each other back into their careers, but I think just Mike Tyson just had more wear and tear than Lewis. So it's about time. It's about time. And look on Amir Khan's record. He beat Marco Antonio Barrera, who beat Naz. Fantastic. So in some people's mind, Amir Khan's better than Naz. And that's what people think because they don't understand boxing. They don't understand the timing. Well, he beat Barrera, didn't he? Well, yeah, about 10 years later, when Barrera were probably half blind and probably couldn't walk in a straight line. But people don't see that; they just see a name on a record. So there's a lot of things as a boxing trainer, as a boxer. You've got a limited period of time as a boxer. You've got to capitalise and you've got to listen. And for me, you can listen as a fighter, and you might not get where you want to be. And there's fighters who will listen and they do get where they want to be. But I've never had a fighter who's completely disregarded everything you said and made it. They haven't. So the gamble is you've got to listen. It might work out for you and it might not. But it certainly won't work out for you if you don't listen. And that's the thing. And, there are a lot of fighters these days. They're so full of their own self-importance. They can't, accept that. They get on and they make mistakes. And, that's how it is.
I hear you. Well, listen, great advice. I've taken up way too much of your time, but before I let you go, everyone today, all the viewers got a chance to send in some questions that they want us to ask you. So very quickly, we'll just have a look and see what everyone's burning questions. Walter Flynn has asked, apart from your dad, who have you worked alongside or studied with any trainers or influences? So apart from your dad, who kind of influenced you in the game?
Not really trainers. I think the influence in my life, boxing wise, was Harold Graham when I was a kid. Fantastic boxer. Spent a lot of time with him, lived with him, obviously because I lived with us as kids. Did a lot of training with him, a lot of running with him, listened to him a lot, watched him a lot, learned a lot from Harold Graham. Not any other trainers. I've never bothered because, to be honest, when I was a kid, I just thought my dad was the bee's knees. I just thought, he's got all these. You do, from an early age. All I ever saw my dad was doing boxing and having a lot of success. And I just thought if they're not doing it his way, they can't be doing it right. That's how, probably, I'm not saying misguided that way, because there's not just one way to do it. So for me, I've probably, apart from Brendan, my dad, it's been other fighters, and that would be Errol Graham. Naseem Hamed, another one, really. For somebody who had a lot of talent and didn't capitalise on it. And that taught me certain things. So not really trainers. I've met some good trainers. Eddie Forch, talked to him. Who else? Eddie Forch. Angelo Dundee. Met him when he was very young. Had a good talk to him. Roger Mayweather. So you pick the brains and you listen to them talking, and you hear the stories and the situations. That's where the experience comes in. That's the education bit. Not really from any other trainers, mainly fighters.
Very good. D Casanova 1 has asked, is there a fighter or what fighter past or present, would you have liked to have trained?
Um, I get asked that question a lot, and um, looking back, I think although they both had very good trainers anyway, I think probably Joe Calzaghe.
Mm.
And I'm going to talk British fighters because I'm, a lot of American. I'm just trying to think. Uh, yeah, Joe Calzaghe, maybe Cole Froch. But
Mm.
the fighters
Interesting.
the fighters I train is like you get that connection, and like the ones that work for me, like Liam Williams rolling up, Billy Joe Sons, you make that connection, and they perform good, and
Hmm.
that's the thing. So I don't really have. For me, it's about getting a fighter who's maybe got more to come, not really the finished article. You know what I mean? It was quite
Yeah.
good, but there's just something missing.
So we'll take one more. Well, we'll take two more questions, right? An opinion on a fight coming up, or a potential fight. But there's a really good question in here from Wal Flynn, and he's asked, "What are your memories from Bernard Dunn? And did you have any involvement?"
Yeah. What I remember about that fight is that we got paid well over the odds for it. Because our boxing was then Brian Peters was promoting Bernard Dunn, and Brian Peters is a nice fella. Bernard Dunn was obviously a big name. We went over to, it was a point in Dublin. I trained Isham Pickering. That was one of the reasons why I actually got involved in boxing, because we had Naseem Hamed and the fighters like Isham Pickering, Junior Witter. We had kids, Paul Griffin, who was from Ireland. We had all these kids then thinking, well, we're going to the Ingle gym, we're going to end up like Naz. And it was a case of, you could see a bit of talent with them. They weren't great amateur fighters. They maybe won a junior national title or something. And for Isham Pickering became British, Commonwealth and European champion boxing world title. He had a great career and some good money. But by the time he boxed Bernard Dunn, he just had a lot of stuff going on in his personal life, and he was up against it. And I think at the time, he'd been beat by the kid from Hartlepool, Michael Hunter. So he probably had the stuff he knocked out him a little bit. But yeah, Bernard Dunn, great fighter. And it was, to be honest, he got his ears boxed off him that night. He shouldn't pick his head, wasn't in it. But that's how boxing is. Time and again, I think at a different time it could have been a different fight. But he got paid well for that fight. He got beat. A couple of months later, he won the British title. Isham and carried on for a few more years and made some money. So it's with fighters like that, I say they overachieved because they went further than you expected. And they went
Hmm.
further than you expected because they listened, they trained hard, they applied it all. But then when it started going a little bit wrong, or when the life started going a little bit wrong, they didn't have the technical or the skill ability to override it, or the punch power, whereas the fighters like Naseem Hamed did. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So they could override that when the life started to dip. It was usually a lot of personal stuff going on, what sends them over the edge or takes the edge off them.
Very good. I'm very jealous that I wasn't there that night, so I'll take your word for it.
It was a good atmosphere. It was a very good. What happened is Paul Griffin came out dressed as Bernard Dunn on one of these top balconies, shadowboxing, and the light went up to him, and everybody looked up. And then magically, Bernard Dunn a second later came out from the bottom. I think, as that happened, it was almost like a trick. It was good. It was a good illusion, and it was a cracking atmosphere. Obviously we didn't get the result, but sometimes you
Mm.
don't. There's fighters you go into the ring with. Johnny Nelson was one of them. Naseem Hamed, that you went and you thought these are never going to get beat,
Yeah.
and Naz never did get beat with us. And for 10 years when Johnny was world champion, he never did. You always have that feeling. With some fighters, it's you cross your fingers and take a deep breath and hope for the best. So yeah, it's been good.
It's so special to hear you speak about Nas that night with the in Dublin with the Bernard Dunn fight, because it's like, for me, it's these are the things that I grew up watching. You know what I mean? These are the
What
being a kid.
you mean Isham Pickering against Bernard Dunn?
Yeah.
Or when Naz boxed. Naz boxed. I think Naz boxed in Dublin. In fact, I think Naz boxed Manuel against.
In general, for
Yeah,
me, it's
yeah,
amazing. Like, it's such an honor to hear you talk about it, because, like, I remember being a kid with my dad. We
yeah,
were sitting on the couch watching this on
yeah.
TV. You know what I
Did you
mean?
watch?
So
Did you watch Naz when he boxed in Ireland?
no, no, no,
Yeah,
well, not live, but yeah,
yeah.
I've, like, looking
Well,
back, yeah.
he boxed a guy called Manuel Medina, and I can remember a few days before my dad phoned up saying Naz is full of flow. I'm going to pull him out. And Naz kicked off, no, Brendan, I've done this training, I'm going to do it. And you could see me dad, like, you know, wanting to pull him out. And it was a life and death fight. And Naz hammered him in the end. I think it might have stopped him or whatever. And that's the difference, that Naz had gone to a training camp, and, you know, he said to me, Dominic, I've never took vitamins in my life, and I train on McDonald's, and he did. You know what I mean? He goes, all this is a load of rubbish. Well, you know, to a certain degree it is, but Naz made it hard for himself, but he had that ability to train his weight down. Joe Calzaghe was another one who said to me, I used to train on McDonald's. But he got that so much ability and skill that they thought, well, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter what food I have. I couldn't have 2 hours sleep. I'm just in the mind. They were so strong-willed that they overcome everything. Whereas a lot of fighters, if you're not rubbing a rabbit's foot or touching wood, or before they go in, or not tying the left glove first, they've got so many superstitions before they get in. They're already off beat. But with people like Naz, it was almost like, yeah, you know, Billy Joe Saunders used to just roll up into sparring, pick somebody else's gloves up, sometimes even somebody else's gum shield, and just get in and spar. And but then some kids have got to hold the gloves, and it's like, and that's the difference, where they're that good at what they do. It's not concerned, you know, what they've got on their hands, or an egg guard, or a gum shield, whatever it is, because they're not intending to get hit. And that's, you know, that's the separator. And it's you see so much variation and so much strength of character and different personalities. It is an amazing place to be in that gym, because it's an education in itself, just watching everybody every day.
Amazing. Well, I've taken up far too much of your time, but thank you so much. That was fantastic. So much knowledge. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Nice chatting.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you too. And hopefully we'll get to do a proper one someday, a proper
No
sit-in.
problem. No problem.
Thanks so much, Dominic. Have a great evening. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.